Hello, and today I am going to tell you some interesting facts on the 1976 movie Rocky, starring Sylvester Stallone. After producers Irwin Winkler and Robert Chartoff became interested in the script, they offered Sylvester Stallone an unprecedented $350,000 for the rights. He had $106 in the bank and no car, and was trying to sell his dog because he couldn't afford to feed him, but he refused to sell unless they agreed to allow him to star in the film. They agreed, on the condition that Stallone continue to work as a writer without a fee, and that he work as an actor for scale. After Winkler and Chartoff purchased the film, they took it to United Artists, who envisioned a budget of $2 million with an established star, particularly Robert Redford, Ryan O'Neal, Burt Reynolds, Nick Nolte, or James Caan. When Winkler and Chartoff told United Artists that they could only get the screenplay if Stallone starred, United Artists cut the budget to $1 million and had Chartoff and Winkler sign agreements that they would be personally liable if the film went over budget. The final cost was $1.1 million. Chartoff and Winkler mortgaged their houses for the last $100,000. Rocky's dog Butkus was actually Sylvester Stallone's dog in real life. After the end of filming, Stallone kept the two turtles Cuff and Link, and as of June 2019 he still had them, alive and well. Most of the scenes of Rocky jogging through Philadelphia were shot guerrilla style, with no permits, no equipment, and no extras. The shot where he runs past the moored boat, for example, the crew were simply driving by the docks, and John G. Avildsen saw the boat and thought it would make a good visual. So he had Sylvester Stallone simply get out of the van and run along the quays, while Avildsen himself filmed from the side door. A similar story concerns the famous shot of Rocky jogging through the food market. As he runs, the stall keepers and the people on the sidewalks can clearly be seen looking at him in bemusement. While this works in the context of the film to suggest they're looking at Rocky, in reality, they had no idea why this man was running up and down the road being filmed from a van. During this scene, the famous shot where the stall owner throws Rocky an orange was completely improvised by the stall owner, who had no idea that a movie was being filmed and that he would be in it. The monologue which Rocky delivers after turning down Mickey's offer to manage him was completely improvised on set by Sylvester Stallone. He has since explained that he was heavily influenced by the fact that the bathroom of the tiny apartment in which they were shooting really did smell like death. Sylvester Stallone insisted that the scene where he admits his fears and doubts to Adrian the night before the fight be filmed, even though production was running far behind and the producers wanted to skip it. Stallone had only one take for the scene, even though he considered it to be the most important scene in the film. The ice rink scene was originally written to feature 300 extras, but the production couldn't afford so many people. When Sylvester Stallone turned up to shoot the scene, to his horror, there was only one extra. So, Stallone hastily threw together the scene as it exists in the completed film. This scene has become one of the most popular in the entire Rocky saga. In the film, the poster above the ring before Rocky fights Apollo shows Rocky wearing red shorts with a white stripe when he actually wears white shorts with a red stripe. This was an actual mistake made by the props department that they could not afford to rectify, so Sylvester Stallone came up with the idea for the scene where Rocky points out the mistake himself. The comment about Rocky's robe being too baggy came about the same way the robe delivered to the set was far too baggy for Stallone, so rather than hope people wouldn't notice, the character himself simply points it out. During his audition, Carl Weathers was sparring with Sylvester Stallone and accidentally punched him on the chin. Stallone told Weathers to calm down, as it was only an audition, and Weathers said that if he was allowed to audition with a real actor, not a stand-in, he would be able to do a lot better. Director John G. Avildsen smiled and told Weathers that Stallone was the real actor. Weathers looked at Stallone thoughtfully for a moment and said, "Well, maybe he'll get better." Stallone immediately offered him the role. Sylvester Stallone and Carl Weathers suffered injuries during the shooting of the final fight. Stallone suffered bruised ribs, and Weathers suffered a damaged nose, the opposite injuries of what their characters had. The highest-grossing movie of 1976. According to Burt Young, during filming of the scene where Paulie walks home drunk, an actual drunk wandered onto the location and told Young he wasn't acting drunk convincingly. So Young asked the man to demonstrate it. Young then copied the man's actions for the scene. During the scene where Gazzo is talking to Rocky about not breaking the dock workers' thumbs, Gazzo pulls out an inhaler mid-sentence and uses it. That wasn't written into the script. Spinell actually had an asthma attack and really had to use his inhaler right on camera on the spur of the moment. John G. Avildsen liked the authenticity it brought to the scene, so he decided to leave it in the film. Prior to his breakthrough role in this film, Sylvester Stallone was earning $36 a week as an usher. The two scenes where Rocky runs up the museum stairs, the first where he can't do it and the second during the Gonna Fly Now training sequence where he runs up them triumphantly, were filmed 2.5 hours apart. The first before the sun rose, the second afterward. When shooting the scenes in the meat locker where he punches the slabs of beef, actor Sylvester Stallone punched the meat so hard for so long that he flattened out his knuckles. To this day, when he makes a fist, his knuckles are completely level. Prior to shooting the fight between Sylvester Stallone and Carl Weathers, John G. Avildsen decided that the scenes needed to be shot in a unique way so as to make the boxing more realistic than in other boxing movies of the period. He, Weathers, and Stallone all went to a ring and began to block out the moves, but it wasn't working, and the fight was coming across as staged and not very energetic. After stuntmen fight choreographers Paul Stater and George P. Wilbur resigned due to creative disagreements, Avildsen then told Stallone to go home and literally write out the fight. Rocky throws a left, Creed moves back, Creed goes right, Rocky goes right, Creed jabs low, etc. The next day, Stallone returned with 32 pages of specific directions for the fight, which he and Weathers learned off like a ballet over a period of a few weeks. In total, Stallone and Weathers rehearsed for over 35 hours. Although Sylvester Stallone famously wrote the first draft of the script in 3 days, it went through 9 sizable rewrites before it was purchased by Irwin Winkler and Robert Chardoff. Originally, Stallone's much darker script depicted Mickey as a bitter old racist. And the film ended with Rocky throwing the fight after realizing he did not want to be part of the professional boxing world. Originally, the filmmakers wanted several former heavyweight champions to appear at the beginning of the fight between Rocky and Apollo. They put out a call for all former champions to show, but on the day of the shoot only Joe Frazier turned up. The filmmakers thought it worked well, however, because Frazier is a resident of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which was where the movie was shot and took place. The boxing gloves used in the championship fight were called Casanovas. They were illegal in the U.S., but Sylvester Stallone says the producers chose them anyway because of their sleek appearance. For this film, Sylvester Stallone is only one of 2 people to have been the sole writer of an original screenplay, to have starred in the leading role for the same film, and to have been nominated for Oscars for both, the other being Charles Chaplin for The Great Dictator. Chaplin had been one of the co-founders of the original United Artists, the studio for this film.